Hi, everyone. Welcome to our mini webinar this evening, or this afternoon for some of you. Really excited to jump in. Before we begin, I'd like to invite those of you who are not currently Core Advocates to join our Core Advocate Network. At Student Achievement Partners, we are committed to solving real problems that educators have, and we know the best way to do this is to work and learn closely with you. So as part of our national network, you have the opportunity to connect with educators across the country. You can keep up to date on tools and resources available on Achieve the Core, as well as a variety of virtual opportunities such as today's webinar and an upcoming 8-week mini course I'll share more about soon. We also work with educators in our network to help us build tools and resources and to have you give us strategic, focused feedback. So by completing the survey that you see linked here, we're able to tailor our webinars and other opportunities to meet your needs and interests. During the webinar, please feel free to tweet using our hashtag #CoreAdvocates at Achieve the Core. A few ways to engage with us during the webinar itself. You will see there is a Q&A option box at either at the bottom of your screen or on the right side of your screen. We'll answer any questions that come up, and if we run out of time, we'll make sure we send you the response through email. You'll also see a group chat. That is also open. Feel free to connect with others in the chat. Note that the Q&A, if you have specific questions for me or my colleagues, use the Q&A. Those questions can only be seen by me and my team, while the comments that you put in the chat box can be seen by everyone. We will not be monitoring the group chat, so if you have a specific question, Q&A is a better choice. You'll also see a resource list that includes handouts and links to resources, so you'll be able to access those. And finally, wanting to remind you that this is a recorded webinar. The link will be shared with you after the webinar. It can also be found on Achieve the Core with our other Core Advocate webinars, and that should be uploaded within the next day or two. For those who I haven't had the pleasure to meet, I am Barbara Besky, Senior Math Specialist at Student Achievement Partners. I'm looking forward to sharing a real high-level overview of the math language routines with you this evening in this very short 30-minute setting. So I want to start with a kickoff of a quick poll. So I'd love to have you share your experience using the math language routines. So you can just click one of the three and hit submit. All right, so fantastic. This is, as I said, a pretty high-level introduction, so it looks like many of you are in the right place. And for those of you who know them well, would love to hear some feedback and hope that you learned something tonight that is new. So the goals of this webinar, to learn what's meant by math language routines, learn the purpose of the routines, and get to experience one routine together and learn how to find more. So the standards clearly state that all students must have the opportunity to learn and meet the same high standards if they are to access the knowledge and skills necessary in their post-school lives. So while college and career-ready instruction is for all students, that doesn't mean that students don't need different supports. With that in mind, we believe that English language learners deserve access to challenging grade level content, that they can and should develop English language skills by engaging with grade level content, that the discipline-specific language development that comes with grade level content is a crucial component of any comprehensive language development strategy, that ELS languages other than English should be considered a valuable asset, and that ELS will require different support based on their individual learning needs and their progress along a continuum of language development. We also believe that the shift of focus is for all students, which means that ELS must be given access to grade level, appropriate, standards aligned math content. All adaptations and guidance must be in the service of helping ELS access math content. So watered down or extraneous activities that are not tied to the math itself are just not acceptable. In addition, the routines and activities to support ELS must have a mathematical purpose. So in other words, they should enhance and not distract from the math learning. So we're not looking to do routines and activities for the sake of doing routines and activities without a mathematical purpose. A little over a year ago, SAP embarked on a research project to learn as much as we could around supporting ELS with high-quality standards-aligned instruction. In that research, we learned more about these powerful math language routines that can enhance instruction, and we were sold. So we chose to adapt each of our high-quality aligned math tasks that are currently found on Achieve the Core with a mathematical routine to support instructions for ELS. The two resources that we use widely in our task adaptations were the Understanding Language Scale paper from Stanford and Routines for Reasoning by Grace Kalmanak and Amy Lucenta. So a link to this PDF that you see on the screen on the math routines that we developed from these two sources can be found in the resource list. So here are how the routines are defined by each of these resources. Math language routines are structured but adaptable formats for amplifying, assessing, and developing students' language. And instructional routines are specific and repeatable classroom structures that enable all students to engage more fully in learning opportunities that develop their math thinking and reasoning. So the key ideas behind the what of the routines is that they're offering two ways to support ELS. They offer numerous opportunities for students to read, write, listen, and speak mathematics in a structured way that allows student voices to be amplified, not diminished or ignored. And the second key idea is that the routines are routines, which means that the directions, the activities, the expectations for students are not new each time. Students can think, oh, I know what stronger and clearer each time means. I've done it before. I don't need to process a whole new set of instructions. So for this reason, the routines are not meant to be like a one and done. The fact that they are routine is actually part of the scaffolding. So some design principles behind the math language routines developed by Understanding Language at Stanford is that the routines are to support sense making. Teachers can foster student sense making by amplifying rather than simplifying or watering down their own disciplinary language. So again, simplifying means avoiding the use of challenging text or speech, while amplifying means that we're anticipating where students might need support in understanding concepts or math terms and providing multiple ways to access those concepts and terms. The routine should optimize outputs, so it's strengthening the opportunities and supports for helping students describe their own thinking. So this could be orally, it could be with visuals, it could be in written form, but students need repeated, strategic, iterative, and supported opportunities to articulate their own ideas. The routine should cultivate conversation. Students need opportunities and supports for constructive math conversations. These could be in pairs, in groups, whole class. A strong discussion would look like students posing and answering questions, clarifying what's being asked, what's happening in a problem, building common understandings, sharing experiences, all grounded in grade level content. And maximizing linguistic and cognitive meta-awareness means that the routines are allowing for students to see the meta connections, right? The distinctions, the connections between ideas and reasoning and language. So there are 8 math language routines. Here they are: stronger and clearer each time, collect and display, critique, correct and clarify, information gap, co-craft questions and problems, 3 reads, compare and connect, and discussion supports. Again, you can find the link to our PDF that describes all of these and has a link directly to the original document as well. The second resource we used for routines is from the website Fostering Math Practices, and here are some of their design principles, many similarities. We're looking for the routines to be situated in meaningful contexts. There's multisensory learning happening, opportunities to use language to describe their understanding, providing multiple practice opportunities, and that the planning around this work is deliberate. For the Fostering Math Practices instructional routines, you'll see the list here: contemplate and calculate, capturing quantities, connecting representations, recognize repetition, 3 reads, and decide and defend. You may be familiar with a few other routines like number talks, notice and wonder, which one doesn't belong. These are 3 additional routines that can support and encourage language use and development in the math classroom. So keep in mind those 2 purposes I mentioned earlier. The routines are supposed to offer numerous opportunities for students to read, write, listen, and speak mathematics in a structured way that allows students' voices to be amplified, not diminished or ignored. And the routines should be routine. The fact that they are routine is part of the scaffolding itself. So the directions, the activities, and the expectations should be predictable for students. So now let's try one. This virtual webinar setting doesn't really offer the opportunity to do most of the routines, but I think we can take a stab at walking through the 3 reads protocol. Note there are a few variations of this routine, but we're going to give this one a try. So the purpose of the 3 reads routine is to ensure that students know what they're being asked to do. Create opportunities for students to reflect on the ways math questions are presented, and equip students with tools used to negotiate meaning. So this routine supports reading comprehension, sense-making, meta-awareness of math language. It also supports negotiating information in a text with a partner in a math conversation. So our friends at Fostering Math Practices created slide decks for all of the tasks that we use on Achieve the Core that embedded their routines. So again, in that same PDF, you can access the slides right through the link through the routines themselves. So you should be able to find that. So we're going to try this routine together. The idea is that you read a problem 3 times. The first time, you are listening to hear what the problem is about. The second read is determining what the question is, and the third read is to determine what information is most important. So the first read, typically the teacher would read the problem out loud, as I will do now for you. And you'll note that you will not or the students will not actually see the problem itself. So you're just listening, and you are trying to just determine what is the gist, what is this problem about. I'll let you know that this is a grade 5 problem, aligned to 5 MDC, and it's a task on Achieve the Core that is adapted from Illustrated Mathematics. So in the group chat, really quickly, once I read the task, feel free to just in a few words say what this problem is about. So here we go. No pencil, so you're not jotting down what I'm saying. You're just listening and thinking about the problem. So a box 2 centimeters high, 3 centimeters wide, and 5 centimeters long can hold 40 grams of clay. A second box has twice the height, 3 times the width, and the same length as the first box. How many grams of clay can it hold? So if you can find the group chat, a couple words about what is this problem about? Perfect. So seeing great responses. This is about some boxes that have clay. There's 2 boxes. There's probably something to do with volume. The boxes are different sizes. There's some kind of comparison about the 2 boxes. Awesome. So that's the first read. The second read is trying to think about what is the question? What quantity are we trying to find? And what we want students to be able to do after the second read is to be able to state the question in their own words. So a student, one option is to have a student read the task out loud to the whole class, but this time the task will be projected on the board, or students will have it in front of them so that they can read along. Since no one else can speak, because I think you're all muted, I'm going to read it again. But again, this time you can read along with the question. A box 2 centimeters high, 3 centimeters wide, and 5 centimeters long can hold 40 grams of clay. A second box has twice the height, 3 times the width, and the same length as the first box. How many grams of clay can it hold? So in class, I would have you turn and talk to a partner, and again, in your own words, say what is the quantity that you're trying to find. So again, let's use this group chat. In your own words, what are we trying to find? What is the question? Great, and they're coming through pretty quickly. But I did notice that there are a couple in class, and this would be typical. You're going to see some students in this problem might say, oh, I need to find the volume of the second box. And then some are talking about the number of grams that the second box can hold. You'll see that in this question, there's this word it. So you want to make sure that your class is understanding what it is, which you all realize was the second box. And so we also want to make sure students are understanding that there's a difference between the volume of the second box and how many grams of clay the second box can hold, and probably have a little conversation about that prior to going into the third read. The third read is where we're going to figure out what's the important information. I would say that students are so often trained to annotate the important information first before they actually know what is important and what is not important. I was just observing a student who circled, I think it was like Xbox 200, and they circled the 200 in the problem because they saw a number, right? So we've all seen students do that. And then often they'll take those numbers and do some mathematics with them because they didn't really take time to first think about what the problem was about before they started to figure out what the information is. So now that you know what the question is about, it's about 2 boxes, different sizes, that holds clay. You know that you're looking to figure out how many grams the second box can hold. You can now read the question the third time, thinking about what information do I need to know to be able to solve this problem. So in the third read, we would ask partners to read the task to each other. The third read is used again to determine the important information, and it really just strengthens the idea of understanding the question before trying to solve it. So I'm not going to read the question again to you, nor will I have you make sure you find the important information. But if you've not done this problem before, though it is grade 5, it's a little bit more complicated than it first shows itself to be. So encourage you all to finish up this problem on your own. I will say that once a teacher is confident that students understand the question, they understand the important information, he or she could then choose for the students to either work independently or with a partner to complete the task. So that's 3 reads. And now I'm going to give you a challenge. I love that in the chat, many of you are solving it already. So some of you were able to download a task when you first joined on. Those of you who haven't, I'd love for you to click this link. I don't know if it's live on the page itself or it's in the resource list. And just grab one task that aligns to maybe a grade level you teach or support. And once you do that, you will see that on probably the second page, it's not always the second page, but probably on the second page, you will see that there is an embedded mathematical language routine. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we've taken each task and we've thought about what of all of that list of routines that we did not get to go into in detail, which of those routines best fits the content of this task itself. So my challenge to you is to, whichever task you chose, that you go ahead and look at the math routine there, use the PDF that is in the resource list, and really just study that routine. Learn as much as you can about that routine and try it out either with students or with colleagues sometime before the end of the year. So I'm just going to pause there for a minute. I know folks are probably still finding the link. I think Susan has put it in the chat box. It's also in the resource box. But just take a moment, find that task, find which routine is in the task that you chose. And then on the next slide, I'm going to ask you to note which routine you're going to try out over the next 2 months. So here on this slide is a list of all the routines. So go ahead and find the one that's in the task that you downloaded and just click the box on the slide. All right, so let's see. There we go. We have quite a few 3 reads, stronger and clear each time, co-crafting questions, quite a few decide and defend. So this is a nice range of routines. So we would love to hear how this goes for you. So you can email me at bbesky@studentsachieve.net. I think that was in an earlier slide. Or email us at the info at studentsachieve.net. We'd love to hear how the first time you used the routine went, and definitely if you have any questions about the routine. So I mentioned a 8-week experience that's coming up. Many of you have probably already signed up, but we are offering a free 8-week virtual mini course on supporting English language learners with college and career-ready content. It's going to start at the beginning of January and go through the month of February. There's a registration link in the resource list, and it's going to be focused on K-5 math and ELA. I just want to note that the registration closes on December 1st, so please, if you're interested, you can join as an individual. You can get a few colleagues together. And if you have a group like 5 or larger, we're going to have folks in cohorts, so you can kind of create your own cohort as well. But everyone is welcome, and we hope you join. That is it. We made it in the 30 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Again, there's a link for the Core Advocate sign up and how you can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest, etc. But again, thanks everyone. And if any questions came in, I'll make sure to answer them through email. Have a great night. Thank you.